is my 1993 Toyota Hilux Surf, second generation, which is a Japanese import. And I've had it for a few years now. I love it, and I want to upgrade the electrics on it. So I'm going to use this video to show you how I'm going to install a leisure battery, a split charging system so that both batteries charge when the car's running and the alternator's powering them, but so that the batteries are kept separate when the car isn't running, so that you can use a leisure battery to heart's content for fridge, cigarette lighter socket, stereo, etc., but not flatten the starter battery so you can still start the car. I'm also going to document how I'm going to do some of the more intricate things, such as a switch that will allow me to switch when the leisure battery things come on. So I'm going to have a switch in there so that my stereo, fridge, cigarette lighter sockets either come on when the ignition comes on, or they're on all the time, but they're still getting powered from the leisure battery regardless. I'm also going to show you how I'm going to wire up switches to turn things on and off, like my work lamps, and show you how I'm going to connect all the relays up and everything like that. And I'm also going to put in a main system as well, so that I can charge the car. So if I don't use it for 3 or 4 weeks, I don't want my batteries going flat, but I don't really want the headache and hassle of having to disconnect them each time and, you know, lose the memory on the radio and stuff like that. So I'm going to put in a trickle charging system so that I can keep the batteries charged. But I don't want to have to open the bonnet each time I want to do that. I just want to be able to plug in using a standard caravan style plug, so that I can charge it whenever I want. So I'm going to use a series of videos to show you how I'm going to do all that. So I'm going to go over what I've done so far. First thing I started with was a plan. I quickly worked out that my ambitious plans were going to use about 50 million wires, and I needed to plan it all out because otherwise I'd probably screw it all up. So I'm not an electronics expert by any means, but I created a little schematic which I'm going to post a link up to. It uses some electronic symbols that you do get in proper schematics. Some of those I had to Google because I couldn't quite remember from school millions of years ago what they were. And it shows where the wires are going to go. It's got like an approximate kind of bird's eye view of the front of my truck, and I've also colour coded things as well. Second thing I did is I went on eBay and bought wires in a million different colours so I can actually keep things organised. I figured that with all the wires I'm going to have, if it's all in the same colour, I'm going to get very confused very quickly. And I've done my best to use the same colours on the schematic and get those colours as close to the actual wire I'm using to make life a bit easier. So the next thing I did was to build this. This is labelled on my little schematic as the 12 volt fuse and relay box, and all it is a black plastic box known as a project box, or project enclosure, or electronics box. If you search for any of those things on eBay, you'll find them. And it's literally just a black plastic box with a lid. Lid's in my garage, and in it I have firstly put in a blade fuse holder. So this allows me to connect the power just up here, so that's the power from the battery, and then have 12 things that I can then connect into it. And what I really like about this is that it's got little LEDs for each circuit, and if a fuse blows, the little LED lights up so it shows you which fuse is blown. And I find it really helpful because it's always difficult to get the fuses in and out to check if one's blown. My eyesight's rubbish, so I can't often tell just by looking from bird's eye view above. I've then also got these relay holders. So these are really cool because if you want to change the relay, like if a relay dies, because they do sometimes die, then it's just dead easy to change. I've secured all these in, apart from that I've pulled out just to show you. I've then got this bus bar. So a bus bar is just a way of connecting multiple things to the same circuit, and I've used this to connect the earth or negative feed to my relays. And now I'm going to mount this here somewhere. I need to make some brackets or something for this. I've never really made any brackets before, so I'm going to be definitely figuring that one out as I go along. If any of you guys watch Project Binky on YouTube, which is fantastic, if you don't watch it, watch it. You'll see that they normally start with a cardboard template and then machine up some kind of a bracket off the back of the cardboard template. So I'm probably just going to use that same methodology and see how I get on. Next thing I did was to create this contraption. Now this is a switch box effectively, a switch panel, but a switch panel on steroids to some extent, because it allows me to do more than just turn things on and off. Most importantly, it's got a little control switch for my leisure battery. Now, I've got things like my stereo and cigarette lighter sockets and fridge connected to the leisure battery. Now, most of the time in most cars, you want that stereo to come on whenever you put the key in the ignition, and you want it to turn off when you take the key out. So most of the time in one position, that's what's going to happen. Everything will be powered from the leisure battery, but will only come on when the ignition comes on. Then we've got camping mode, switch to switch, and that basically means that everything on the leisure battery comes on all the time. So it means that I can have my stereo, fridge, cigarette lighter sockets, etc. powered without having to have the key in the ignition, because I don't want the key in the ignition because it will flatten things. Just having the key in the ignition will use a small amount of power and eventually my starter battery will go flat. And I don't want to leave the key in the ignition if I'm camping, because it's a security risk as well. So that allows me to switch things. I've then also got these little switches here that allow me to switch on and off work lamps. For work lamp, I just mean like an LED, a big LED. So I've got one at the back and one at the side, so I can switch things on and have some light so that I can see what I'm doing. I've then got this emergency light. Now, emergency light, what I mean by that is kind of like the ones you got in the back of AA vans, i.e. just a big orange light. I managed to get some quite small ones that are LED, which are really bright. And I've stuck them on the back of my truck because recently I was broken down in my truck on lane 1 of the M1, I think, where there's no hard shoulder. And trucks were about to crash into me, and I thought I was going to die. And I thought that was the end of my truck. And it was rather scary, and no one could see me. And the police took rather a long time to close lane 1. So I thought if I stick some emergency lights that flash, people will be able to see what's going on. And if I put it on a separate battery, there's more chance that it's going to be working unaffected by the mechanicals and all running the car. I've then got a relay in here which is documented in my schematic, and then I've got my power coming in. I've labelled everything as well, so that's my negative power. I've got power going to the stereo. I've labelled everything on my relay as well. And then I've created this little mini wiring limb. I want to be able to remove and replace this if necessary. If I'm trying to take other things apart in my truck, I need to be able to get it out easily without having to remove a million wires. So I've put plugs on everything, and I've tried to use different plugs for different things so I can't plug in the wrong thing. But then I've also gone ahead and labelled things as well, just to make it obvious what goes where. Now, for labelling things, I've used this bad boy, which is a Dymo Label Writer 450. I got one of these at work and I got one of these at home. I love them. They're so quick for creating labels. They just plug into your computer. And I've got these. So these are Dymo durable labels. These, I'm not sponsored by Dymo, by the way. Like, this is me genuinely loving this product. These are awesome. I put one of these on a pint glass. It's been in the dishwasher 10 times and it's still on there, and you can still read a label. They're supposed to be like heat resistant as well, so good for putting on things in cars, and better than just like normal labels like this. It's only really good for like putting on an envelope and putting in the post kind of thing. So if you want to label things up nice and easily, get yourself some of these and get yourself one of those. They're about 85 new, but you can often get them second-hand on eBay for about 40-50 quid. They are awesome. Get one. Right, that's it for this video. I hope that's been interesting and enjoyable to watch. I only decided to start making this video about a week ago because quite a few people have been asking me how I've been doing these bits and bobs in my truck, so I thought I'd film it as I go along. Everything I've shown you has been like a couple of months work on and off. In the meantime, I've also done my dining room, so I had to take a little bit of break from it in the meantime. Next video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to wire up some of the next bits and bobs. So I've made that fuse box and I've made that switch box, but now I actually need to wire it up, mount it, etc. So I'm going to use the next video or two to cover things like that. This is a new channel and I am new to this. I am just doing this for fun, but even so, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to this channel, which is a new channel. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.